So in this tutorial is going to be about the character flight system. Basically, we're going to be able to fly, hover, and control the character when he's flying. And we're also going to be able to fly faster. So we're going to be able to fly like Superman at the end of the tutorial. And for the character blueprint code, what I have is this. This is my current code. I have hover faster, I have fast flight. All these input keys here you can add already if you want to. I'm starting by the event tick, we're going to use it for improving the turn curving assistance. We're gonna get all into these steps here later, so I'm just gonna show you what I have on my blueprint before I can start the tutorial. So here, this is my camera input. This is also the default code. The only change that I've made here, it's on the jump input, where I have set my variable is jumping to true. And don't need to worry about this, of course. And going back to my animation graph, my animation blueprint, what I have is this on my animation graph. I have my state machine here is just to the default locomotion, idle, walk, run, jump. Going back to the event graph, we have the default code as well. I just have added the is jumping here. And I think if you don't have this code, I think I can make it downloadable so everyone can download this code here. For in case there is a beginner coming the first time here, he can download this code for free. And I'm going to leave a link in the description down below for you to be able to access it. So you don't have to do all this code by scratch again. You just have to connect some pins. So that's why blueprints are great. Going back now, I think we can start the tutorial. So let's start by going to the overview map. This is just a marketplace asset that I've put in here. Don't need to worry about this. Just to simulate. This is just for simulating the how it would be if the character would be on a huge map, right? So here I have some houses, and up there I have some other static meshes, and here I have my character. It's Superman, and I can basically walk around. I don't have a cape yet. Not all heroes need cape, something like that, but this is what I have. Maybe in the tutorials, in future tutorials I can make a tutorial about how to make a cape, but for now and that would be pretty cool, but for now we're going to stick with Superman without a cape. Now let's start a tutorial. So the first thing we gotta have a key for switching between the character flight mode and the walk mode. So how we can do that? So we're going to use the F key. Let me see what I have here. So we're going to enter the flight mode and switch to the fly mode. So switch. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to get a flip-flop, because I want to, whenever I press the F, I'm going to switch between the flight mode and the walking mode. So I'm going to want to create a new variable, a new Boolean variable called is flight, or better, flight enabled, question mark. And then we can drag and drop it to here, and then duplicate this. So when you press F once, then this A execution P is going to be executed, of course, and the flight enabled is going to be executed. So depending on what value here you say here, this is going to be executed. So I want this to be true when we press once, but if you press twice, then the B execution pin is going to be executing this node right here, and we want to disable the flight mode. And after that, I want to set movement mode, and I want to select here on the drop down, select flying. Now we can duplicate this. Now if you press F again, now we're going to be falling or walking, whatever is better for you. So let's test it out to see if it's working. I also have made some preset settings. I also have made some settings that I didn't show in the beginning of the tutorial. That is in the character movement. If I type here flying, the braking, the acceleration flying which is the default value, is set to be 444. Let me see if I have any other custom default value on the character movement. So here on the gravity scale is set to be 1.0, and the braking, the air control is set to be those. And if you have any questions, then you can contact me on Discord. If you have any bugs when you follow the tutorial, you can contact me on Discord, and maybe I can help you on what you need. So this is my character movement settings. So this is my current max fly speed. It's set to be 600 cms, and that's it. So now let's set up our aim for hovering. So what I want to do when I press play on here, when I hold the right mouse button, I want my character to be facing the camera direction, the forward direction. So how can I do that? First, we need to know if the character is aiming. So I'm going to create a new variable here called is aiming ? And then we can drag and drop it to the graph. And here I'm going to turn this variable to true. And here on the character movement, I'm going to drag and drop it this and set the orient rotation to movement. I'm going to duplicate this. And I also want to get the set use controller desired rotation. I'm going to duplicate it too. And we're going to turn this to be true and this to be true. So going back here, when you press play, my character is facing, as you can see, my character is facing this direction. When I press R and hold, then it follows the camera direction. So now I think we can go ahead and go to the animation blueprint and set some code in here. So as I showed you earlier, this is my setup. This is the default code, but if you don't have it, then you can contact me on Discord. I can help you to make this default code here. So what I can do, as I have my character reference here, after I cast it, I have it here. Make sure the cast matches with your character that you're using, because otherwise it's not going to work. And here on the as third person character, I want to get the is aiming. So I'm going to get is aiming and promote it to a variable. I also want to get flight enabled. Those variables are essential. So I'm going to promote it to a variable and compile, save. Now we're going to go back to our animation graph, and as you can see here, we're going to have separate state machines, and so that we can organize things better, and maybe we can debug in the future the code better, and we can see what's going on if something goes wrong. So all we can do here, we're gonna want to split this state machine. We're gonna want to have different state machines for different locomotions. For example, here I have my locomotion for idling, walk, run, jump. So I want to have the different locomotion for flying because I think it's better for us. So I'm going to drag off this and blend for bool, or just type blend bool. And then you're going to find this option here, the first one. I use this a lot because it's very useful. And here in the true blend time and false blend time, I'm going to choose the value of 0.6 because we want to get a more smooth animation as we are flying or as we are swimming. Also works. So depending on the greater the value put here, the more smooth, the more time it's going to take to blend between the state machines. And here on we're going to drag and drop the flight enabled, get it, and then set on the active value here. So what this is going to do, when the flight enabled is true, then we're going to have then we're going to switch state machines. So we're going to create a new state machine called flight loco, That stands for flight locomotion. And we're going to plug that into true. Now we're going to compile save. So as you can see, we get some errors here. That's pretty much normal because we don't have anything inside the state machine. So just for you to know that when this flight enable turns to be true, then we're going to switch state machines, and it's going to take the time of 0.6 milliseconds for us to be changing between state machines and transition between them. So okay, so let's go inside our flight locomotion, and here we're going to create state machines, sorry, state transitions, and we're going to type here hover idle. And we're going to connect that to here. Now we want to go from the hover idle to hover move. So I'm going to drag and drop the PS hover to here and connect it here. Now as you can see, it requires some variables. We're going to set it up later. Make sure it is set to be loop animation, but it comes by default, so you don't need to do anything. Now coming back to hover idle to PS hover. So if the flight is enabled, then we can connect that to the can enter transition. File save, and let's test it out. Let's go back to our review map, play. And if you jump and press F, something happened here. I think that's because this animation is a additive animation. So what we can do, we can get the hover idle, drag it here, and we can drag off this and say apply additive, and we can connect this to the additive and connect the result to the output animation pose. So now we can compile save, and let's try again. There you go. As you can see, we have our idle state of the hover animation. If I hold the right mouse button, as you can see, I have my character to be facing the camera direction. If I let it go, then I have the free locomotion. Now going back here, we want to have these values y and x. This basically represents the direction of where the character is going. So for us to be able to get them, we're going to go to our third person character. And here, as you can see here on the movement input, we're going to save the axis for using on the blend spaces. So here, what happens when you move forward, when you press W, is that the return value here, this output pin here, is a float, and it changes between -1 and +1. So when you press to move forward, which in my case on my keyboard is W, when you press W, this value here on the output pose is going to be changed to +1. And if we press the W to move backwards, then we're going to get -1. So what we can do to place these values in here, we can promote this to a variable and call this axis value forward and backwards. So we can promote this to a variable, compile save, and we can also promote variable to this input axis here. So we're going to promote it and say axis move right and left. So going back to our event graph on the animation blueprint, we can get those values. So get axis right left and get axis forward and backwards. So now we can finally place the values there. So the Y is going to be the right left. And for W forward backwards is going to be the X. Compile, save, and press play. And when you hold right mouse button and press W, the S, to move backwards, it plays the animations. But when I move left and right, it also works because I've placed the values there. So if I had to remove the X and compile, save, and try again, and if I move forward and backwards, nothing is going to happen. But if I move left and right, it works. So that means that the Y controls the left and right directions, and the X controls the forward and backwards directions. And now talking about the additive, this blend space player, I have set up this blend space here, which has the value that goes from -1 to +1. The creative vision is 2, snap to grid. And I'm not going to teach you guys how you can make this from scratch, but if you want, you can watch the previous tutorial, which I teach how to create this blend space from scratch. I'm going to drop the link in the description down below, so you can watch it. So everything works, everything is good to go. I can move left, right, forward and backwards. But if I press the Q and E letters, as you can see, I'm able to fly up and down. That's because I have made an input axis here from scratch, which means flying up, we're going to press the Q and then the axis value is going to change to positive, and E is going to change to -1. And we have this add movement input here. So I can teach you how to make this by scratch, which is pretty simple. So what you can do here on your map, or we can go to the edit or window, I think it's project settings, and we should be able to find an option called input here, input. And here, as you can see, I have added the U and Q. So what you can do to add the new one, you can just press on this plus sign here on the axis mapping, click once, and let's say I want to fly up and down, then press enter, then it's already created an input axis for you. So here you can choose which letter you want to for the input axis to be changed. So here you can choose the keys that is going to change the values. So if I press 5 and then I add a new axis mapping here to this group, and then add 6, then let's say, for example, I want the 6, I want to make so that when I press 5, I want my character to go down. So here on the scale, we're going to type -1. And here on the 6, we're going to let it +1 because that's what we want. We want to change values between -1 and +1 because that's how we set up our blend space. Our blend space is set up like that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You can do it. You can follow the steps. I'm not going to do this because I have already my own here. So I'm going to delete this. And you can name predicate whatever you want. And after you've done this, you can go to the third person character. As you remember that the E, when I press E, the character goes up because I have set up here to be +1, and the Q is going to be -1. So remember the name. You can also copy this, copy the name, and going back to our character event graph, we can right click and type fly up down. So here you're going to be able to see that we have axis events. So you're going to click on this, and as you can see, we have the axis value float variable right here. So this is going to vary from -1 to +1 again. If you print out a string here and if you play the game and press the Q and E letters, we're going to be able to see that the axis value is going to change. So I'm going to delete this, and what I did, I just basically copied this add movement input here and this here and pasted it in here. So what I've did, I'm gonna want to get the up vector because that's the vector that controls the direction that goes up and down. So I'm going to get up vector, and I'm going to split this in rotation, in rot, and I'm going to get the X row here, and I'm going to plug that to the world direction. So I'm going to basically get this and place that in there, and then boom, you have your locomotion, you have your character to be able to move up and down. So that's how I've done mine. So the third or second or fifth step, we want to sprint, so we want to hover faster, because when we press shift, so when we are hovering, the character does not do anything. It doesn't speed up the fly speed. We don't have a higher speed than that. So to have a higher speed when we are hovering, we can go to the left shift event. So if you want to add a new input key, so you can right click and type left shift, so you can create a new input event. Now here, when I press left shift, I want to set max fly speed. I'm going to unpin this context sensitive here, and I'm going to set it here. I'm going to drag and drop the character movement, plug that in there, the target, and I'm going to get out of character movement again. I want to get set, actually, braking the acceleration flying. Plug that in there. And I want to also change the max acceleration. I'm going to set max acceleration. And I want to duplicate the max fly speed and also the max acceleration. So the max fly speed, it does what it says. It sets the max fly speed for the character, so we're going to be able to fly faster. The time that it takes for the character to fly faster is going to depend on the max acceleration, and the time that it takes for the character to stop, to slow down when he's flying, is the braking the acceleration flying. So for the max flight speed, I'm going to choose 70,000K, 70,000 of value here. For the braking the acceleration flying, I'm going to choose 16,000K, 16,000. And the max acceleration, I'm going to choose 10,000. And here I'm going to choose 7,000. Max fly speed is going to be 3,000, 3,300. And I'm going to put that into the released. So let's try that out. Let's compile, save, and test it out. I press F, I can move, hover, go up. Now if I press and hold shift, now I can move faster. Of course, you can choose how fast your character goes. It's going to all depend on the inputs you give to be here, you set to be here. So now we're going to set up our fast flight. So basically what it does is just an impulse that the character is going to receive to move faster. All you gotta do is just get all these variables here, paste that in there, and let's delete this braking the acceleration flying and duplicate this. Now we're going to copy character movement, set it to be the target. We need this max acceleration, so I'm going to delete that. Max fly speed, max fly speed. So here I'm going to choose max fly speed. I'm going to choose 1 million. So 1, 2 stays. And max fly speed is 600. So when we press the left Ctrl, then we're going to set our max fly speed to 1 million. Now we're going to promote this because I want to be able to use this value inside the character animation blueprint. So I'm going to type current fly speed. And then I want to duplicate this and set it like that. Now let's compile save and let's go back to our animation blueprint. Now what I want to do from here, I want to get the animation called flight start. Like this. I'm going to name this hover move start fast flight. So going back to our event graph, we're going to get out of the third person character. We're going to get current fly speed. Now we're going to use this value for placing it here inside the transition rule. So I'm going to get the current fly speed and I'm going to get it, say, greater or equal. And type 600. If it is more greater or equal than 601, then we can go from the hover move to the transition of start fly, fast flight. And make sure the start fast flight animation has the loop animation to be ticked off, because we don't want to loop the animation. And let's test it out to see if it's working. Now here when I press F, and then when I get a good speed, and then when I press the Ctrl, then the character is going to be on this idle position here because I haven't set anything after that. So I'm going to get the BS fast flight and call this fast flight. This is the fast flight blend space. So after the transition of start flight, fast flight, I'm going to create a transition here. And on the transition rule, I'm going to click on here, and here on the transition automatic rule based on sequence player state. So that means as soon as this animation finishes playing, then the transition rule is going to be true. Then we're going to be able to go for the fast flight transition. And then for going back, we can go to the hover mode and create a transition here, drag and drop the current fly speed. And if it's less or equal than 700, then that means that our character have slowed down already enough for being able to hover again. Now, as this blend space is also a additive, then we're going to apply additive, and I'm going to get the fast flight and drag it to the base, and the additive is going to be here. Now we're going to drag and drop the left, right, the axis, and drag and drop to the X. And here on the fast flights, we're going to disable this loop animation. And also, I think we can let this loop animation to be on, because we're going to be looping when we are fast flying, when we are in the transition of fast flight. So I guess that's it. Let's test it out to see if it's working. Press F, the character enters in the hover mode. If I press Shift, then the character is going to be here, going to move faster. And if I press left Ctrl and hold it, then the character is going to be able to be on this idle, which is which is an additive, and it's going to be applied on the top of the blend space. And yeah, so as you can see, we don't have any movement. I want the character to be launched as soon as we start the flight start, the animation, which is this one right here. So when the character, as soon as this animation enters on this frame here, then I want to execute an event that is going to be triggered inside the animation blueprint. So what I've basically created a new notify here. So you can do by adding, by right click here on the notifies one, by right click, add notify, and add the new notify. Then you can call this to be whatever you want. I don't know, flight notify name. And then you can access this notify here by going to the event graph and flight notify name. And then you can execute anything you want inside here. So what I want to do, I want to be able to launch my character with the with an event that is inside the character blueprint. So in this event, I want to launch character, and here I'm going to get actor forward vector and multiply it. I'm going to convert this to a pin, to a float, and I'm going to add 44k. And I'm going to add a sequence here, and I want this then one to fix a bug that I found. So I want to set movement mode to be flying again, because for some reason the character goes off from the movement mode of flying to another movement mode. So I don't want that. I want the character to be sticked to the movement mode of flying. So just keep that in mind. If you have this bug, then you can choose to have this in your code. But for now, I'm going to just unpin this execution pin here and to see what this looks like. So I'm gonna press F and press Ctrl, left Ctrl. So you see nothing happens. That's because the event that is inside here is not being called in the animation blueprint. So what I want to do, I want to delete this because I've already have added here. It's called fly fast. So I'm going to call this event. So how we can call this event? It's very simple. We can get the fly fast, and we're going to get the third-person character and call the event that is in there. So how can we create an event that is going to be inside the character's blueprint? That's pretty simple. We can right click and add, let me just enable this context sensitive here again. You should always have this option on, and add, because almost always have this option on. So now what we can do to add an event that I've done here as I have in mind, then you can add custom event, and then you can name this event whatever you want, and there you have the event. So the name of my event is fly fast. I'm going to call this fly fast event. Compile save, and I'm going to get out of this and execute the fly fast event, and there we go. Now we're going to compile save. So as soon as this animation is at this frame here, is played, as soon as this animation is played and the animation is at encounters on this frame here of 36, then this event is going to be triggered, then it's going to execute this code here. So when you press play and press F, then we can hold or just press the left Ctrl. Then the character is going to be launched away. But as you can see, the character falls for some reason. So that's why I have added that code there after then one. Then I'm going to choose the small delay and set the movement mode of the character to be flying again. I'm going to try again. Now let's set up our transition rules for making it smoother. Now here, hover idle, I'm going to want to choose the duration of 1. So it's going to take 1 second to blend between the hover idle to the hover move. Here we're going to keep the same. Here, start flight, fast flight to fast flight. I'm going to choose the duration of 0.6. And duration back to fast flight to hover mode. I'm going to choose 1. So that way we can have better and smooth transitions when we are flying. So here on the event tick, I'm going to add a branch. And here what I want to do is just improve the turning curve assistance for high speed flight. So I'm going to get the character movement. And I want to know if the character movement is if the character is having a higher speed, greater than 14,000. So I want to get a velocity. And out of the velocity, I want to get the vector length. Vector length of x and y. And if this value is greater or equal than 14,000, so depending on the condition, if it is greater or equal, then we can set the braking, the acceleration, flying. So we're going to get the character movement first and set braking, the acceleration, flying. We're going to duplicate this. If it's true, false. We're going to set different values for each one. So this is going to be 6,440, 400. And if it's false, then we're going to set it to be 444. So if it's false, then we're going to be gonna set it. If it's false, then we're going to want to set it to be 444. So if you hold the left Ctrl, then you can fly forever. But I don't know why the character is like shaking like that. Maybe because it's too much of a high speed for him. I don't know. I think it's stopped now. Oh, that's weird. Yeah, talking about the camera, we can simulate the motion of speed, changing the camera location. So how you can do this is by just adding a timeline. So you can right click, add timeline. I'm not gonna do it for me because I have already set up a timeline for the purpose of this tutorial. But I'm not gonna be teaching you guys how you can set up this timeline for in this tutorial, because that's going to be for another subject. But you can just connect then 0 to the play from start. So what I have here is basically just the location of the camera. So here I have three values that represents X, Y, and Z. So basically this is going to change smoothly the location of the camera, or the camera is going to be when the character is going to fly fast, when this event is going to be triggered. So here, after the update, I want to set the camera rotation. So we're going to drag and drop the follow camera and set relative location. And if you have any questions about this, then you can comment down below, and I can probably teach you on the Discord server if you're there, and how to do this timeline. But you can basically go through the documentation of Unreal Engine 4 or other tutorials on how you can do this. And see how you can do this. So let's just compile, save, and I think this should be working. I think we should have a more sense of speed. And now when I press left Ctrl, then the camera is going to smoothly go away from the character, and then it's going to go back. So you can pretty much mess up with the values and see which one works better for you. I have set mine to be 104,000 of speed. Before I think it was for 14k. And let's put it to 3,000. Now let's test it out again. And yeah, it's very much good. I think the speed is good. I think the character is not shaking as much as the last time. I think it fixed by itself for some reason. So yeah, you can basically play around and see which values works better for you. And that's going to be it. I hope you enjoyed, and I see you in the next one. Bye bye.